I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for Investment Pitch Media and FinTech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Brian Kerr, the CEO of Kava Labs. Brian, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's my pleasure.
You're very welcome. Kava has gone through a lot of changes since we last spoke last year. If you could start by giving a refresher, and to those who don't know what Kava is Kava and what does it do, and what have you been up to lately?
Ooh, where to start? So we launched Kava in June of 2019, or we made our public debut, and we shortly after had a Binance IEO with the Kava staking and governance token, which both is like the ownership and rights, but also you can sort of control the network with it. They're responsible for all the key parameters of what goes on. And following the Binance IEO, we had about 6 months of development where just the Kava token staking and governance was live on the blockchain. And we're moving into a phase now, starting on June 1st, where we'll be releasing the next major upgrade for Kava, which will be the DeFi lending module of our platform, which enables users to deposit crypto assets, the first being BNB, and mint USDX stablecoins or receive them as loans. So this is kind of in just a week from now, we will be delivering on the promise that we set out to deliver, with BNB being the first asset. So I'm really excited to see that come to fruition.
That's very exciting. And for those that aren't really familiar with the intricacies of the DeFi space, can you give a layman's description of what does it do when or what are the advantages when you use the DeFi platform as opposed to regular old lending?
Yeah, so that's a great place to start. And I would say for different people, DeFi has different value propositions as a category. As a US citizen, there's many places for me where I can't trade cryptocurrencies on margin accounts. So I can't do leverage long trades of BTC just because crypto exchanges can't support it for me due to regulations. Similarly, in Korea, margin trading of any kind isn't available even in stocks for Korean citizens. The value proposition to people like us and people in South Korea is that they can use the DeFi platform because it's just software running in the cloud to receive loans on their assets and effectively get a leverage long a trade for whatever asset that you want. So our platform is here to provide people who don't have access to financial services that tend to be reserved for institutional investors and accredited investors in the US. And it expands it and makes it available to everyone anywhere.
That's great. And being a DeFi platform and lending out, it can have certain situations where if there's a lot of volatility in the market that can affect liquidations or calling of loans. And back 2 months ago, when the stock market made a huge drop, Bitcoin also made a huge drop. There was a lot of volatility in the market, and there was a little bit of flack going on with the DeFi space. Could you talk about the current views of how does the community and outside view DeFi as moving forward, and where does Kava fit into all of this?
Yeah, so 2 months ago it was a fun time for everyone, both in the stock market and in crypto. The big shock caused a number of liquidations, both in the normal capital markets as well as the crypto space. And DeFi was not immune to the squeezes of liquidity that were happening all around. But what was particularly interesting about that was that sort of the leading lending platforms of the time, like MakerDAO, they actually didn't have enough people with liquidity to take the other sides of the liquidations or win the auctions as collateral was being liquidated and then sold off. There wasn't people on the other side to buy it. And when that happens, the whole system, which is trying to be algorithmically managed and stable, shuts down, or it fails to maintain stability, which is sort of defeats the purpose of these things in the first place. And I think that through the ecosystem caused a lot of learnings across a number of different projects. It made a lot more people pay attention to topics like oracles, congestion on Ethereum networks, which cause things like posting prices that the algorithms use to manage what everything is going on. All those can fail. And there's a number of other things, but what it means for Kava is that we have factored a lot of this into our roadmap already, into our design decisions. But what it does do is it highlights the importance of you need to be both technically safe when you're developing these things. You need to design the things properly, but you also need to make sure the right incentives are available for the people who might be backstopping liquidity and supporting key functions like liquidations.
And I'm glad that you mentioned MakerDAO, because they really have done a good job so far bringing the awareness of DeFi to the cryptocurrency space as a whole. Now, could you talk a little bit more about what sets apart Kava from MakerDAO, and do you see them as a competitor or with somebody as more of the same vision?
I think at the very base level, we have a similar vision to support decentralized financial services and making them openly accessible for everyone. What we set out to do with Kava was a bit grander of a vision, I think, than what MakerDAO was able to do, just because in the early days of Ethereum, you're sort of trying to build the very first building blocks for everything else. And MakerDAO did that really well by giving Ethereum holders a place to deposit their Ethereum and receive a loan, which then they could buy more Ethereum with it or do whatever they want, use it for payments, and that comes in the form of DAI. For us, we see Kava as providing services like that for all the other cryptocurrencies that don't have smart contracts like Ethereum does. But we also see the Kava platform providing kind of the basic level, what we call DeFi services and functionality to all the other blockchains that don't have it. And what that includes are things like Chainlink data feeds, where we can take data, post it on Kava, and then distribute it out to other blockchains. And what that allows is for, say, Binance Chain, which operates a DEX, they can use that data once it's there to create options and futures contracts and a bunch of other financial instruments, which will be really interesting for the traders that live there.
Wow, that's really interesting. And also, as of recent, there was news of the DForce, DeFi platform that actually had some vulnerabilities in the contracts, and some hackers were able to use code to siphon out the $25 million at the time from the DeFi platform, although they did later return it, which was very interesting. Can you talk a little bit about this situation, the vulnerabilities potentially in DeFi, and do you see this as a setback for the space, and does it affect the general opinion of the future of decentralized finance?
So I think hacks will happen in any type of technology. And I think what the DForce situation particularly highlighted was, and just to explain the context to everyone, you had a team that saw the success of Compound, a lending protocol on Ethereum that was pretty popular in the US and is one of the leading protocols to date. They copied a lot of the open source code. It was open source in the way that you could use it and review it, but you weren't supposed to repurpose it for commercial purposes. And DForce, I think they're based in China, took it, copied that code, didn't really understand how it worked, but then they sort of put it out into the world as their own. And when you use other people's code that you don't intimately understand, there's certain security concerns and design decisions that like Compound and their team was very well aware of, that when the DForce team reused the code, they just didn't have the ability to understand. So that was a vulnerability in the code in the first place. So then they started adding a bunch of other things to the code. And what that did was it expanded the attack surface of what they were doing. And then, so I guess from that point of view, there's always dangers in technologies, especially with open source things. But the other part that I think is really important in that situation is that DForce launched or put their smart contracts live before even running any third-party audits, having any peer reviews done. And I think that's fine to do if you're talking about $10,000 or $100,000, depending on how much money a company might have or how much the user base has. But DForce grew really, really quickly because the people in China who saw it really liked what it was doing. So it grew almost, as you said, to like $25 million in collateral deposits. But it never at that point went through a security audit, at least as far as I know. And a basic security audit or a peer review should have found the vulnerabilities that the hackers used. Like they were well-known exploits since I believe 2017 for Ethereum smart contracts. So I think it just shows that there's young teams that are trying to ship things quickly. They're trying to go to market, which is the right thing to do for a startup. But at the same time, there's certain safety precautions that any team needs to take and any user should take, like doing just a little bit of due diligence on who's the team, who released this code, what vulnerabilities might be there. Did anyone even look at it that's credible? And I think that sort of highlighted a lot of the go fast and break things that Mark Zuckerberg pushed for startups for a long time. And crypto is not the place to do that when you're handling millions of dollars of people's funds. You can do it when you're early, when it's just tens of thousands of dollars. But once you get up into the millions and millions range, that's when you need to be much more like a bank. You need to go through strong security and auditing processes before you ship any code live to the blockchain, because people will use it, people will take advantage of it, and people will get hurt at the end of the day. And that's not what we're trying to do here.
Well said. And I've heard the phrase, a smart contract is only as secure as, and it's only as vulnerable as you think it is until somebody hacks it, right? You can't really tell how secure it is. Obviously, you can put in preventative measures for auditing and all of those such things. And speaking of that, has Kava put in, what kind of precautions has Kava put into its code for the DeFi platform?
And review phase right now before our launch in early June. One of the things I think I'd just like to highlight for everyone is that Ethereum, because it's an open smart contracting platform where anything can run, it means that the outputs of the code can be anything as well. And what that does is, for a hacker, there's just so many different attack vectors you can do because the code can do anything. When you build a system like what we have done at Kava, is we've scoped the code into modules, where the modules have very discrete sort of inputs and outputs. And you can test for that. It's like, is it putting in, does the things that go in actually result in the things that we want to come out? And does it stay within that range? And that's the difference between developing something in Solidity, like on Ethereum, or versus Go, which is what we use here at Kava. So that's one precaution, just from a design decision. But then actually in reality, what we do, once we've developed something new, we do a bunch of internal testing. We create a bunch of different internal tests of kind of, as I said, measuring inputs and outputs, figuring out what ranges and where errors could occur. Then we enlist a bunch of the third-party people in our community that are technically savvy, like our validators and node operators. We have several people from exchanges, which are very technically savvy, review the code. Then it goes to a third-party auditor, usually 2 to 3, that we pay. This time we're using Certic and B Harvest, 2 companies out of South Korea, to review the code that are really good. And after they give us the report of what has been put in, what their findings are, where they believe potential risks are, our team takes that, looks through it, makes sure that nothing's a big red flag, address any issues that are in there, and then we push the code live to the Kava community to then review again and vote it in to actually being part of the live Kava blockchain. So there's a lot of steps here, and but I would say all of them are necessary, because our team might develop it, we might know how we design things, but there's always something when you're developing that every developer encounters bugs. This is no different. Not everyone can find everything, and it should be really like a team community effort at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, what's really interesting about the Kava platform is that you're utilizing the Cosmos blockchain, which I find very interesting, and I see one of the advantages of that is interoperability. Now, could you talk about the advantages over using Ethereum by using Cosmos, and how the interoperability benefits the users of the platform?
Yeah, so the Cosmos SDK is a framework for blockchain developers to quickly build a blockchain that has consensus. It has the ability for nodes to communicate with each other, and it gives developers the ability to then focus on the things that matter to them. So for us, it's like DeFi, it's lending, being able to create stable coins, and that's what my team is really good at. We didn't have to worry about building the next generation consensus mechanism because the Cosmos SDK was available. And what we're seeing in the crypto space is that after the launch of the Cosmos Hub, the blockchain, the very first Cosmos SDK blockchain, now over 110 projects are building with it. And it's not just some projects that we haven't heard of. It's companies like Binance, OKChain, Kava uses the Cosmos SDK. There's companies like Terra that have hundreds of thousands of users for their applications. So it's really exciting, sort of the development of the paradigm shift, where you had a bunch of Solidity developers in Ethereum struggling to build apps, to now many projects can build things very quickly because they can be focused. And the beauty of the Cosmos SDK is when Kava builds some code, it's actually modular and it can plug and play into any other thing into the ecosystem. So when Binance Chain designed a bridge for atomic swaps, we were able to adopt that very quickly onto our blockchain because we're built roughly from the same foundation. And similarly, when we launched Kava, we built a special thing called the vesting accounts, which lock up tokens and release them over time to people who participate on the network. Now, anyone who builds on the Cosmos SDK can use that code that we built. So in this way, we actually have like 110 teams now, all building, adding to the Cosmos SDK code base, which I think is just really cool. It really accelerates development, and you get to see things sort of play out organically really quickly as well.
Definitely, and it's great to see Binance leading that way. And with the Kava DeFi platform coming out soon, the first token that will be able to be deposited is the Binance token, BNB, which is super interesting. Can you talk about, why was Binance token chosen as the first token to be able to mint USDX stablecoins, and how does that benefit the community?
Yeah, so the next step after the Cosmos SDK for the vision of interoperability, the blockchains can't just all connect, even though they're similar, they can't just all connect with each other all that easily. There needs to be a special module, which is currently in development, called the Inter-Blockchain Communication Protocol, IBC for short. And this is still in like the final phases of being built. And what we were able to do, instead of waiting for that to finish, we worked with the Binance team to build a custom bridge between Kava, a module that Kava adopted, as well as the Binance chain adopted, which allows Binance BNB's token and their other BEP2 assets to flow into Kava to be used in our lending protocol. And it allows our stablecoin and the Kava token to flow to Binance chain to be used in their DEX. We always prioritize as like a pragmatic organization, go to market speed, because we think it's really important. So rather than waiting for IBC, we chose to do BNB first because we could just do it sooner. We could get out into the market. We could test our platform much faster. And then like the cherry on top is, now that we have a connection with Binance, we can get other assets. Like they have around, I think, 9,000 BTC in their custodial BEP2 token form. So it's called BTCB, but there's 9,000 of it on their DEX already. We can move that to Kava and have like a custodial version of BTC available for people to deposit and get loans against pretty quickly. Same thing for XRP. There's XRPB available in the Binance DEX. So in that way, we sort of were able to get 3 assets for the price of 1 in terms of the technical build. And we can go to market sooner than we would if we just waited for IBC to finish.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Brian. What is the best way for viewers to learn more and to get involved with Kava?
So our website is kava.io. That's the best place to find information. It's also the best place to find out about our rewards program, which is being offered for BNB holders that mint USDX. The first users on the platform get quite a bit of rewards in terms of Kava. It's all given away in protocol. We don't do it as a company. It was something that our community voted on to incentivize BNB users to participate. If you want to learn more about sort of what our communities are doing, we have a Kava Nights group. Our Telegram group is t.me/Kava Labs. And then on Twitter, it's Kava_labs. You can follow us there. We post a lot of content. Great.
I'll leave those links in the description box below. Thank you so much for the time, Brian. All the best with Kava moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Thanks so much, Ashton. It's my pleasure.